This is Bedtime Stories, Grown-Up Edition, Sins of the Father, Part 18. When we left off, the younger generation were putting all of their issues on the table, and the older generation was giving them the game. All of the men were in one room of the St. James estate, and all of the women were in the other. The only ones missing were LJ, Regina, and Donovan. And when we left off, it was getting good. Angela had just asked her TT, Mighty Soul, if Uncle Manny had cheated on her. And Mighty Soul told her that she did not know. And then she said, when we got married, my husband understood my non-negotiables. And that was one of them. As a result, I've never had a woman on my phone, at my door, or in my face. I've never called my husband and was unable to reach him. And if I dialed his number and he could not answer, Javier did. And he always had a reasonable explanation. There wasn't a night when my children were small, when they went to bed, without hearing their papi's voice first. Maribel said, that's true. Mighty Soul said, and it didn't matter where he was, what he was doing, or who he may have been with. Your uncle has never given me any reason to doubt his loyalty. While he inherited his position, he had to earn the power that came with it. I'm sure that there were things that he had to do to gain respect, build a reputation, and position the Lopez family at the head of the 5 families. Since I know what comes with this life, I'd be foolish to tell you that when he was younger and he actually needed to do all of those things, that the things that he needed to do didn't include other women. What I can tell you is that he was smart enough not to ever let it land on my lap, at my table, or on my doorstep. Because had he, the Lopezes would have needed a new head. Rennie said, I know that's right. Then Mighty Soul said, and he's been in position for a very, very long time. So he no longer has a need to prove himself. When he did, there was never a question that I asked that I didn't get an answer to. And I didn't ask questions I didn't want to know the answers to. I also never had a need that didn't get met, or made a request that wasn't granted. There wasn't a phone, a property, or an account that I didn't have access to. And there still isn't. Mighty Soul said, I am not the grin and bear it kind of woman. I pray for my husband. I pray over him. I pray with him. I love him. I take care of him. And in return, he has always taken care of me. I've never wanted for anything. And if I've ever had a complaint, he's corrected it. He has not been a perfect man. And our life together has not been an easy one. But other women have not been the issue. My point is that some women know what their husbands are doing and they turn a blind eye. Some women have no idea what their husbands are doing. And they're the first ones to tell you that their husbands are doing nothing. And those are the husbands who are doing everything. And then there are women like me who have made their positions very clear to their husbands, who haven't seen red flags and looked the other way. They just haven't looked for flags. And all the flags that they've seen were green. And when they saw a yellow one, they had no issue offering correction. I think you know that your husband can get up every day and go to a 9-to-5 job in the office and be sleeping with the woman working down the hall. And if you don't want to know about it, you won't know about it. Angela said, you didn't have to go there, TT. Mighty Soul said, apparently I did. You're sitting here pretending like infidelity is an automatic in this life, or like it's more likely to happen with Q as the kingpin than it is with him at the FBI or his PI agency. Not to speak ill of the dead, but Anders was retired from the construction business. Mother said, I think we all got your point. Damn, Mighty Soul. Tessa said, I'm telling you, because she got everybody together. Please do not start talking about men who own airstrips and pilot schools. And everybody started laughing. That was the tension breaker that they all needed. Angela said, well, I guess when you put it that way. Mighty Soul said, please don't leave your husband because he's trying to protect his family. Catherine said, Angela, let the man do what he needs to do. Keep him in prayer and trust that God always has a ram in the bush. He may very well not be in the position very long. Angela said, I don't see a way. Catherine said, don't worry about it. Pray about it. Mom Brenda said, and true for the record, Melissa's not the way that Q's going to get out of this job. The Queen Mother said, now True, please don't piss me off. Mom Brenda said, now wait a minute, Bella, just hear her out. Go ahead, True. Tell her what you was trying to do. True said, Mom Brenda, I thought that was between us. Mom Brenda said, I never said that. True said, Melissa's mentor with the light is the son of the vice president. When Melissa was missing briefly, the vice president called Q's boss at the FBI and offered her resources in exchange for a meeting. Q turned her down. When Melissa was found, she still wanted that meeting in exchange for an explosive scene to free Donovan. I intended to arrange that meeting. Angela asked, why would you try to arrange a meeting that Q was trying to avoid? True said, because I knew that if they could rescue Donovan, Q would have to accept whatever position the vice president was offering him, and then he would not be able to be the kingpin. The Queen Mother said he certainly would not have been, and he wouldn't have been too happy either. Please tell me that you ran this by somebody, and do not say Stephanie. True said, with all due respect, I technically work for Manny, and yes, I ran it by him. The Queen Mother said, and he was okay with you going behind Q's back and mine? True said, he was okay with waiting to see what Big Wood's contact could do, and then going behind y'all's back. The Queen Mother said, I'm pissed and impressed. Stephanie said, don't be too impressed. I'm sure that this was more about keeping Big Wood from being Q's right hand than anything else. The Queen Mother said, let me guess. You worried about getting cheated on too? Rennie said, that and whether Tasha's youngest baby is Big Wood's son, and if he's settling for her since his previous relationships didn't work out. Catherine said, oh dear Lord, this is a mess. True said, Rennie, I can tell my own business. You worry about yours, okay? And for the record, I'm not worried about whether he's that boy's father. I just need to know. Marisol said, we all have a past, True. Everybody has an ex. Now, I don't know about Big Wood's past relationships, but I know Big Wood, and I can't imagine that he would have proposed to you if he was still hung up on an ex or had some unresolved issues with one. And he certainly wouldn't have sat down all of Manny's generals and laid down the law about how he expected them to move around with and for his woman. True said, he did what? Marisol said, you heard me. Manny told me that Big Wood had a meeting with all of his generals and let them know that if anything happened to you, they'd be counting their days. And if they or anybody who reported to them mishandled, disrespected, or were inappropriate with you or observed anyone else doing so, and they failed to address it, he would address them. Rennie said, that's what I'm talking about. Big Wood, not the little one. Salima said, yeah. Stephanie said, well, that explains that stupid phone call you got from Stacks. True just shook her head. She said, that's what I'm talking about. I'm a grown woman. How are these men supposed to respect me when my boyfriend, Catherine said, fiance, True said, whatever, is going behind my back, having side conversations, flexing his muscles? How can any woman truly be in charge in this world if they need men to come in behind them, with or without their permission, call meetings and give speeches about how those women need to be handled? The Queen Mother said, let me get this straight. You upset because Big Wood is doing what men do, protecting. True said, I don't need protection. Salima said, if that was the case, we wouldn't need generals, lieutenants, and soldiers. True said, you know what I mean. In this world, I am the protection. Stephanie said, well, you can't shoot everybody who doesn't respect you. You know that, right? True said, but not having a penis shouldn't mean that they automatically disrespect me. I'm sorry, but I don't see this as any different than if I was a boss in an office and my man, who does not work there, came to the office when I wasn't there, had a meeting with my staff, and laid out his own policies and procedures. Angela said, I know how you feel. I couldn't imagine Q coming to Vibrantly You and giving my employees a speech about how I should be handled. The Queen Mother said, but he did. Angela said, what? The Queen Mother said, when you were pregnant with the twins, Q had a conversation with your staff. They were calling, texting, emailing. He understood that they were happy you were back, but you were on modified bed rest, and you told them to contact you anytime for any reason. He couldn't get you to sit down, so he did what he had to do to protect his wife and his unborn children. It worked, and you were none the wiser. Angela said, so when I was checking in to make sure everything was good, the Queen Mother said, oh, they was putting out fires left and right, but they didn't want to hear from Mr. St. James again. Angela just sat there shocked. Marisol said, I'm sure that he probably never wanted you to know that, because you are clearly a handful. But it seems to me that in an effort to be Little Miss Independent, you're turning your relationship into a tug-of-war, baby. And I don't know that you want to do that. You're going to have to figure out how to be the boss where it counts. And Mom Brenda, yelling on the speakerphone, said, and that goes for you too, Stephanie. True said, Mom Brenda, why exactly didn't Melissa make that phone call, though? Mom Brenda said, because manipulation is akin to witchcraft. There's a way that seems right to me that leads to destruction. Tessa said, all right, everybody turn your Bibles to... Everybody laughed, and Mom Brenda said, Tessa, the joke is getting old. I'm trying to teach you not so young ladies the same thing that I'm trying to teach my grandbabies. There are times when God sends us to fix what's broken, to interfere and interrupt the devil's plans. And then there are times when God wants to show us that he can bring the people that we love out of the lion's den without a scratch. without us even lifting a finger. All of you ladies are great problem solvers. But without God, you don't have the power to solve anything. And no amount of money, no amount of earthly power, and no amount of gunpowder can overrule or interrupt God's plans. Not even the sins of the father. The Queen Mother said, Anya's over here signing. She wants to know what she can do about Ron's sudden interest in being the family's lawyer. Contessa said, baby, just remind him of your mutual why. When you two got married, you had a goal. You had a plan to help the deaf community. And his legal acumen is much more useful to this family with him not a part of the business. Mom Brenda said, and tell her to pray and ask God to help her reach her husband. Y'all do too much fussing and not enough praying. Then Stephanie said, well, what am I going to do about CT? According to him, we're still married in the eyes of God. But I want to be married on paper again. Nadia signed, maybe you shouldn't rush things, Stephanie. You want him to give you what you want. And once again, you can't give him what he wants. This next time around should be a collaboration and not an accommodation. The Queen Mother said, I couldn't say it better myself. Catherine said, now let's discuss how you ladies can help me with Nigel's triplet daughters. And all of the women groaned, oh Lord, give me a break. I don't want to be bothered. Meanwhile, in the room where the men are meeting, the conversation has taken a turn. Manny said, listen, I'd be remiss if I didn't address the elephant in the room. I've been in my position for a very long time. I did not get here by playing nice. My reputation precedes me. Of us heads, I've been the only one with a marriage and a marriage that produced children. All of the heads said true. And I know it's the ideal. It's our preference. But it has not come without sacrifices. I've never been able to parade my wife and children around. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to keep them safe. And I've been in positions where I couldn't act like a married man. We won't get into whether I wanted to or not. The stakes were high. I played the hand I was dealt. I never compromised my marriage, though. Never gave my wife any reasons to doubt my loyalty. And whatever I did, never impacted my heart for her. Never made no outside kids. Never brought her no diseases. And never let no broads play on her damn face. I ain't never have to choose between my wife and no other woman. Made that choice before I got married. Not a man in this room or the one we gonna bury hasn't been in that position. In or out of this life. All of the men agreed. Wise, Q, Corey, you may never have had to spit game to save your own life or lay pipe to be able to make it home safe to your wife at night. But I need y'all to be real with yourselves, because I can guarantee that your wives are having a similar conversation right now. Especially yours, Q. Wood is way more prepared for the possibility that he gonna have to do a little something. But Q, you gotta know that it's gonna come. And you're gonna have to decide. Wise and Corey, you're gonna have to know that your wives are not exempt because they women. Well, I said, whoa, hold on. And he said, you're not special. Selima's going to be the head of an international organization. And her life and the life of the people who report to her may very well come down to her putting it on a nigga. Or abroad. That's the world we live in. Corey, you waiting to hear from God? Recognize that God already knows. I've seen Selima, Stephanie, and True in action. And I don't look at any of them as anything other than daughters, nieces. But you got to know the niggas coming out the woodworks. Black, white, Hispanic, Caribbean, and otherwise. And they gonna be in positions where they gonna have to choose. This is not the kind of game where you can be in your damn feelings. Q said, Manny, I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. You know that, right? There are some things that I'm just not willing to do. I didn't accept the job because I didn't feel like I could say no. I accepted the job because at every turn in my life, the families were there. Every situation that I found myself in or that I chose to be in. From defending my sister's honor, to protecting Veronica, to keeping my wife safe. One or more or all of the 5 families, or 4 of them, had my back, whether I asked for it or not. But there were plenty of times when I asked for it. I told myself and my wife that I didn't want anything to do with this life. But when it was convenient for me, when it would make whatever situation I was in easier, when it looked like my only way out, I didn't hesitate to lean on the families. What kind of man would I be if, when the families actually need me, I tried to stand on some moral ground? I prayed about it. I've been in constant prayer about it. And I don't know if God has abandoned me or what. Corey said, no, God doesn't abandon us. Either he's talking and you're not listening, or this is a season when he's not talking. Believe me, I should know. Q said, all I can do is make the best decisions I know how with what I have. I'm holding on to my sobriety by a thread. I'm doing this. But I need y'all's help. I need y'all to keep me away from the bottle and away from the broads. Because I don't want either one. I love my wife I love the ground she walk on, her dirty damn drawers. I'd rather not even be here meeting with y'all right now. I'd rather be in the guest house, showing her just how much I love her, and telling her that she's pregnant. Manny said, getting her pregnant, or Q said no. Telling her that she's pregnant. I promised her that I'd be the one to tell her. Not a test, not a doctor, me. For months, it's all I've wanted. And now here we are. I'm about to be the kingpin. My wife, who hates everything about it, is pregnant. Corey said, maybe that was the surprise Melissa was talking about. True was asking me hypothetically what I would do if Stephanie was pregnant. And since that's not possible, because she has issues and so do I with fertility, and we've only been rekindling things for like a week or so, Manny said, that's not how that works, Corey. It only takes one time, and no doctor said that Stephanie could not get pregnant, or that you couldn't get her pregnant. They said it would be hard. Just because it hadn't happened doesn't mean that it couldn't. Corey said, you got to be kidding me. Oh, hell no. Wait. Oh, hell yeah. Manny said, anybody else got a pregnancy announcement? Samuel said, what are the odds that both of y'all wives will be pregnant at the same time again? Manny said, sometimes we don't learn the lesson the first time, so God got to run it back. He's giving both of y'all a do-over. Get it right this time. Q said, I don't have nothing to get right. I did my big one last time. I missed half of the pregnancy, though, and now I'm going to be kingpin. How much of this pregnancy am I going to miss? Big Wood said, none, if I got anything to do with it. Idris said, if you do what's necessary to keep that man at home as often as possible, you're never going to see your woman. Wood said, I think we need some space anyway. Samuel said, you playing a dangerous game, young grasshopper. These niggas is vultures. You ain't hear nothing Manny said? Wood said, I heard every word he said. She either going to stand or she going to fold. If she fold, she won't be the first one. Idris said, this is getting more complicated instead of less. Well, Stanley, what's up with you? What's your prospects of a wife? Stanley said, I met somebody at Wise's wedding, but I need to have a conversation with Big Wood. Big Wood said, about what? Manny chuckled. And at that moment, Lorenzo walked in. Manny said, perfect timing. Stanley said, we can talk in private. Idris said, nah, we putting it all on the table here and now. Wood said, what's up? Stanley said, your sister, Zora. And Lorenzo said, what about her? And everybody but Big Wood and Stanley said, oh, hell. In this corner. Big Wood said, may the best man win. But you play with my sister, you playing with your life. She grown, I can't pick a man for her. But if I had to pick, Stanley, no offense, it would not be a nigga trying to be a kingpin. I don't want her nowhere near this life. I don't want to be in it. I did that already. If it wasn't for this man feeling like he owes this family, and me feeling like I owe him, I wouldn't be here now. So if I had a vote, Zoe'd have it. Stanley said, but he worked for the family too, pretty much. Zoe said, no, I'm an independent contractor. I work for me. And she ain't got to worry about me killing nobody or sleeping with nobody else. Manny said, whoa. Stanley said, but she still got to worry about you going to jail or getting killed. Zoe said, no, I don't play with guns and I don't be anywhere around any shooting. And I'm independently wealthy. I can get low before a cop ever see me. Manny said, oh, this is going to be good. Stanley said, well, may the best man win. And stuck out his hand. Lorenzo said, nah, that's not how I get down. Hold on. Then Lorenzo pulled out his cell phone, dialed a number, put the phone on speakerphone. And when a woman answered and said, hello, Zoe said, what's up? I'm calling because I was talking to Stanley. The woman said, who? Zoe said, Stanley. Stanley Charles. You met him at Wise and Selima's wedding, apparently. And everybody knew that Zoe had called Zora, which meant he already had her phone number. And they were already in communication. Then Zora said, okay, and that's important. Why? Zoe said, apparently he's interested in you. Are you interested in him? Wood said, oh, this nigga direct as hell. When Zora said, I don't really know him, so I can't say that I'm interested in him. Why do you ask? Zoe said, because we've been talking on the phone for a little while, and I haven't come out and said it, but I like you. I like everything about you. And I know I'm not like the average guy or whatever. I'm not emotional, and sometimes I miss social cues, so I don't know if you're interested in me, but he wants to turn this into a competition, and I don't know how to do that. So I was just wondering. Zora said, I like you, Zoe. That's why I gave you my number. I don't even remember meeting a Stanley, but I remember meeting you, and I enjoy our conversations. And I like that you're not like most guys. This conversation lets me know that it hasn't been an act. My only concern is I'm in New York, and I don't know where you live. Zoe said, I live everywhere, and I'll live wherever I need to for me and you to be together. But can I call you back? Because Stanley's standing here looking at me like he want to fight. And the whole room erupted in laughter. Zora said, "Oh my goodness, are there other people listening to this conversation?" Zoe said, "Yeah, because I wanted them to hear it and get the context because I'm not good with that. But like I said, I'm going to call you back after I knock this nigga out." Idra grabbed Stanley. Wood grabbed Zoe. Stanley said, "Nigga, what's wrong with you?" He said, "Be easy, Stanley. Ain't nothing wrong with him. He processes information a little differently than you do. But you over here asking this man about his sister, and you ain't even talked to his sister. What's wrong with you?" Stanley said, "I don't give a damn about that phone call. She don't remember meeting me. I'm gonna make her remember me. Good luck, Zoe." Manny said, "Stanley, please don't get into a war with my son over a woman who's already expressed interest in him. At this point, you should be able to tell that he's pretty direct, and while he's not about gunplay, his hands work." Stanley said, "And so do mine." Q said, "Nigga, she chose. Chill out." Wood said, "I got another sister. She got 3 kids, though." And the whole room erupted in laughter. Manny said, "We got a little business that we need to tend to. So unless you fellas have any more personal you need to discuss." Q said, "Nah, get on with it. I need to go find Angela." Manny said, "So we need to find out what Amir is up to, if he was in cahoots with Jeff, if and how we can use Sincere and Saint, and what's going on with LJ." Q said, "Rennie should be able to question Jeff about anything involving Amir." LJ headed back to Dallas. He wasn't feeling well. And Big Wood said, "And I'll talk to Miss Catherine about how she feels about involving Saint and Sincere." Then Manny said, "I'm going to Dallas to see LJ. Corey, did you take a look at that video and assess the situation with Donovan?" Corey said, "I did. And I told True that I think he's being honest with Portia. I suggest that you all work on a way to get him out of there. But you follow his lead. If he gets that girl pregnant and anybody does anything to hurt her, he is not going to be happy." And he said, "And if he gets her pregnant, my daughter's not going to be happy."